Maybe all of this is a social experiment to prove how quickly women will jump online to hate other women in the name of feminism. They fall for it every single time. Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. My name is Sam. If you are a returning viewer, welcome back to the channel. And I am so sorry for yelling at you all last week to put down your snacks and pick up salads, but your comments were just too good. I'm glad you're back here with me this week, no matter what you're deciding to snack on. If you're new here and this is the first time you are seeing my face, welcome. I make weekly videos dissecting internet nonsense, so if you're into that type of thing or you like today's video, I hope that you'll consider liking and subscribing. It really helps out the channel and make sure that you never miss another upload from me. Today, I feel like we have to talk about this photo of this woman wearing some jeans that just so happened to break the fat acceptance movement this week. If you haven't seen the photo in question, no worries, you're going to see it a lot in this video, I promise. If you have absolutely no idea what I'm talking about, let me just provide a little bit of background. So Emily Ratajkowski is a model who goes by Emrata on her social media. She posted a photo carousel to her Instagram with about 5 to 7 photos from a photo shoot she did with M magazine in France. One of these photos captured the attention of the internet. It has caught fire, it's running viral, and it is bringing all of the heat directly down on Emily. Let's take a look at the madness that happened not only on TikTok, but also on Emily's Instagram, and try to put this whole thing into perspective. I'm gonna start with the very first video I found, which just so happened to be a stitch made by Tess Holliday.
One thing we can always count on from celebrities is that they will stay out of touch, because what is this? Last time I checked, Emrata wrote a book about body positivity and female empowerment. And I would venture to say that this is accomplishing the opposite of this. Even if it doesn't trigger you, or even if it doesn't bother you, do you think that that is aligned with the message that she wants to send? I want to know how this got through the creative director, her and her team.
And first, just because I'm feeling some type of way, I have to admit that I was absolutely shocked to see that Tess hadn't made her own video sort of talking about this thing, since she is a model in the fashion industry, or she was a model. I know she just made a TikTok about being pushed out, but she always has so much to say. So it was interesting to see her only stitch someone and nod along in agreement without actually sharing her own opinions on what is happening. My takeaways from this video were that Emily had written a book about body positivity and female empowerment, and that this photo was her sort of contradicting her own messaging. And more importantly, how did this abomination of a photo make it through not only her, but her creative director and her team in order to be published? How was this allowed? All right, let's look at another critique.
Explain to me, as if I'm a 5-year-old, what part of this is fashion? Because maybe I'm missing it, maybe I'm misunderstanding, because I'm not seeing it. What part of this is fashion? What part of a thin white woman wearing plus size jeans is fashion? Is interesting? Is revolutionary? Like, this is weird. This is weird. Whoever came up with this idea is weird. Whoever shot this is weird. Whoever published this is weird. She is weird. Now, if I was to say this is fatphobic, y'all would get mad and pressed. So I'm not gonna say it's fatphobic. I'm just gonna say it's weird as fuck. It's so weird. And this is why I rarely care about what thin white women say about body positivity, because like your words don't really have much value to me. At the end of the day, my opinion on this does not matter to anyone. Like, she's still making money, she's still posting it, whatever. Y'all at the very least should be having more fat people in these design spaces, because you need someone to look at you in the face and tell you this is weird, because every fat person I know can see this and like, I don't like it, that's weird, inappropriate. But you're surrounded by thin people who are a size 2 who are like, oh yes, this is fashion. This just gave me the ick. Like, ew.
I feel as though this is an appropriate spot for me to throw in a qualifier here that I do not care about fashion. I have never followed fashion. I wear sweatpants or jeans a majority of my life with very comfortable shirts. That is just who I choose to be as a human. Fashion has never interested me, and I do not understand it in the slightest. But while I was watching this video, even I could put together that this is absolutely what fashion does. And it was very both intriguing and confusing to me that Fat Feminist was pretending that she didn't think that this is what fashion does on a regular basis, especially high fashion. This is what they're known for. Fashion, in my opinion, is often chosen as the medium for controversial opinions. A few things that pop straight to the top of my brain are Lady Gaga wearing the meat dress, right? Trying to make a statement or make a point there. But also our very own Tess Holliday wearing the famous sample size dress on the runway. So outside of her not understanding fashion as a form of art, she also just thinks the whole thing is weird. Okay, noted. Now we're gonna look at one last creator in full here, and she was so fired up that she actually has 2 TikToks for us to get takeaways from on this whole situation.
Let's talk about how this picture is kind of the embodiment of the difference between the body positivity movement currently versus fat liberation. I'll let you take one more look at it before we get into it. So I had heard this person's name before, but I didn't really know a lot about them, but apparently they are a model and former actress. She also wrote this book called My Body. According to the description, it talks about how beauty is a cult and it was created by powerful men. And I'm assuming that all of this ties into her background in modeling and acting. It explores feminism, sexuality, power, men's treatment of women, and then women's rationalizations for accepting that treatment. This is something that she has on her Instagram story about it. So here's my question, Emily. If you wrote an entire book about your body and how beauty is a cult and how every woman is judged by her body, what made you think this was a good idea? Anything? Any thoughts? There are also some really great comments, so even if you just go through and read them, some of them are kind of funny. But back to my original point. We have a lot of people who are objectively very thin talking about body positivity, but they're not actually working for fat liberation. Because if they were, they would know why that picture is completely inappropriate.
The first thing worth pointing out here as a key takeaway is that this creator did not know who Emrata was before this whole thing took place and before she started making this TikTok content. She had to Google who she was in order to make this very heated response. And then she expands on what we already learned, that Emily has a book about body positivity, with her explaining to us that it's about the cult of beauty, sort of about how men run these industries and how they abuse their power and how women sort of just accept that for themselves in order to flourish within these systems. Fascinating. We're going to hold on to that and look at her other response here.
Let's talk about how this picture is kind of the embodiment.
I have a hot take. I think this is good art. I think, one, the discussions it's bringing up are interesting and part of the point of the photo.
Here are the things that I take issue with. If your quote-unquote art that you want to make, whatever sort of statement you're making, is at the expense of a marginalized group, I no longer find it positive. If everyone in your comment section is telling you how offensive it is because you did not take the time to learn about that marginalized group before you posted it, that's on you. That's not on the marginalized group. And the discussions that are happening really are just about how a lot of people are being triggered back to like Thinspo, Tumblr, and Twitter. So no, I don't actually think that it's triggering any sort of positive discussion. It's just fat people telling her that she's being offensive and people who want to defend the thin person being like, oh, you know, it's just like, it's her personal story and she probably didn't write that body positive book and you're just mad. Why are people so mad on the internet? It's literally just stuff that happens on the internet any day when people don't want to listen to fat people. And if you're constantly defending the thin person who's being offensive, not a hot take.
Okay, so her response to someone calling the photograph art is that the art is being made at the expense of a marginalized group, and therefore, by her interpretation, is no longer positive. Great, we've noted that. Now, the other key element and key takeaway here is that this creator is the first person to say out loud that this art is triggering to people and taking them back to thinspo Tumblr or bad times in their past with their body image and self-confidence. And then there are these two, which I think are beneficial to the conversation, but we don't need their whole video to make the point.
What in the early 2010 Biggest Loser winner photo shoot session is going on?
Whole team of people sat down and said, do you know what would be good? Is for you to dress up like Jared, the Subway guy.
Ooh. Okay, so that was a lot for us to watch and to take in. Let's talk about it now and sort of break this thing down and add some perspective to what we've just seen and heard. First, I want to point out the thing that always appears to be an issue for our fat activist friends, and that is them understanding that not only is this actually art, it is also marketing. It did exactly what it was supposed to do, and it captured the internet's attention and got them to talk about and engage with the art. Because on the internet, engagement is everything, whether it's negative or positive. Instead of this photo having never seen the light of day, because it is not even the first photo of the carousel, it does not pop up on Emrata's Instagram, this photo has had hundreds of articles written about it. And even though Emrata has her likes disabled, so we can't see how many people have actually liked it, there are 3,400 plus comments at the time of me filming this video, and every single one of those comments, whether it's negative or positive, has thousands, tens of thousands of likes. So this is getting a lot of engagement, and Emrata gets paid for that engagement. And lo and behold, so many of our fat acceptance friends are on that post engaging with it and helping this model make her money. I saw Tess Holliday, Brie Music, Maddie Zom, Fierce Fat Femme, and Fat Fab Feminist. So many of them. All there engaging with this content. And I'll be honest, as I was scrolling these comments and seeing all of these commenters there, the first thing that I thought about was how this became so widespread. Because I'm genuinely curious to know how many of these fat activists were following this woman and would have seen this post organically. And I am genuinely curious about that because we heard several TikTokers admit that they didn't even know who Emrata was until this whole thing broke. So how is it that this came to them? Was it planted that way? Because it does not seem to me like this is a person that our fat activist friends would follow, right? She is the epitome of all of the things that they despise. She's a model in the fashion industry. She's straight size. She's very small. She's white. She's not standing up for anything in their opinion. So why would they have been following her in order to see this photo? Are you catching my drift? And here's why I think this is worth noting. Okay, the truth is, if our fat activist friends had not decided they were so heated about it and needed to make all this content and make all these comments, literally no one would have known it existed. And instead, what they have done, maybe against their own will here, is they have created so much extra publicity, that's a word I can say, around this photo, right? They're bringing more people to the magazine, more people to Emrata's page, more people now know who the photographer is, who the creative director is. They brought all of this attention. And again, it doesn't matter on the internet if it's positive or negative attention. It's all engagement. And that is all they're looking for. Because controversy sells and negativity appears to be the best form of online marketing right now for reasons we've just seen. Fat activists just proved their point. By posting something controversial, a whole bunch of people responded and gave them exactly what they wanted. And I just find this so fascinating because fat activists are constantly droning on and on and on about the evils of capitalism and the evils of the patriarchy. And then at every turn, they fall for it. Every single time. Now, the other thing I want to talk about in relation to this whole thing and putting the whole thing into perspective is that Emrata has written a book called My Body, and she's written this book and several online articles where she explores what it means to be a woman, and she specifically explores the juxtaposition of making money by capitalizing on the male gaze while also wanting to be respected for her politics and other parts of herself that are not her body. Sound familiar? And our TikTok friends weren't wrong. Her book does also talk about body positivity and body image and self-confidence. So it's fascinating to me that their immediate sort of gut angry responses were to specifically target Emily and naturally assume that this was just a negative photo shoot in general. What stood out to me right away with this photo when I first saw it is that it does look like those old cringeworthy weight loss ads or before and after photos from The Biggest Loser. This photo didn't take me back to Thinspo Tumblr or give me flashbacks to surviving middle school, but instead actually reminded me how far we've come from that time and from that era, right? We don't see ads like this anymore alongside really harmful diet tactics. It just really doesn't exist today, which I think is why this photo was actually kind of powerful, because it did it conjured a memory, right? A collective memory from something that has happened in the zeitgeist. And it does say something to me that this image resonated with so many people, including, likely, Emily herself, right? She is the subject of the photo. Because what it proves, once again, and I know our fat activist friends do not like to hear this and do not believe in it, but believe it or not, thin women were not immune to diet culture, nor the body image issues that it caused for so many of us. It's the reason that we still see thin women taking things like Ozempic for vanity reasons. They're not immune, right? We're kind of in the same boat here, whether you want to believe it or not. Now, earlier we saw our TikTok friends mentioning that Emily had written this book about body positivity and self-image and how she was straying away from her own messaging by putting out this sort of harmful imagery, right? But I think if we take a look at the rest of the images that are in her carousel, there's actually a chance that maybe she was leaning really heavily into her messaging. For example, in the first photo, she's wearing a beautiful dress on the top of her body and juxtaposing it with baggier jeans on the bottom. But what caught my attention looking at this photo was that she wasn't modeling jeans the way we would typically see in a women's magazine. Rather than putting her backside first or sitting in a strange position with her legs in the air, she is posing more along what you would see in a men's jean ad. This continues when you look at another photo where she is flexing with a sort of wider stance pose. This probably has less to do with trying to offend bodybuilders than it does, once again, with the juxtaposition of her femininity with the flexing like men often do, and potentially like man-spreading. It's the best way I could describe the pose that she's doing. So when we go back and look at this photo that captured the internet's attention and brought all of this heat onto Emily, it makes me wonder, in context, could it be possible that she was choosing these photos to share because they represent her struggles, right? Her struggles with body image, her struggles with men controlling her creative decisions in the industry. She could have been portraying how men flex on her in real life by paying her to go on vacation with them. Fun fact, that is a thing that has actually happened. Found that while I was Googling her. It genuinely made me curious because art is typically a medium that people use when they're trying to represent their own individual experiences, right? And sometimes those experiences speak culturally, so they will resonate with other people. Now, again, I could be completely, totally wrong, but if you look at the context, if you look at the writing that Emily has actually done, is it possible that this is what she was trying to do? Only she will know officially. And finally, just because I'm me, and of course I'm feeling some type of way today, I can't leave this video without pointing out the fact that our fat activist friends jumped to anger so quickly, and also without any hesitation, as we've seen them do in the past, they jumped directly to attacking Emily on her social media repeatedly, not only on that post, but on every post since then. She is receiving that very negative engagement. And I took a quick screen capture that I'm going to put on the screen here because there is no heat falling to the photographer who is male or the creative director. It's all focused on Emily. And as you can see by this capture that I've got, almost every single comment is made by a woman. Maybe all of this is a social experiment to prove how quickly women will jump online to hate other women in the name of feminism. All right, that is all I have for you guys today. And at this point, I am curious to know, did you know who Emily was before this whole thing happened? Had you seen the photo online? Because it is making the rounds. Do you think this is art? Do you think that she said anything with any of these pieces? I would be curious to get your interpretations because, again, I think art is fun. It can mean so many different things to so many different people. So please share your thoughts and opinions with me down in the comment section below. You know I love to read them. And for all my introvert friends out there who do not feel comfortable leaving their opinion in an internet comment section, I see you, I feel you. Go ahead and leave me some sort of art emoji this week, like a paintbrush or something. I think that would be fun. And honestly, I love seeing your emojis just as much as I love reading the opinions, so please do leave them for me there. As always, thank you all so much for being here with me again this week. I will see you in the next one. Bye!